We'll do about a 10-minute block focused exercise today. I do have the ball handy for modifications and additional support, especially around the low back. It can be great to go between the two depending on the props you have at home or what your needs are in your body today. We're going to start with the block. It is this perfect fist distance, which matches that width of your sits bones. We're going to just let the block rest between the inner thighs. And we're going to come to a 4-point kneel. Now, any point in time, if you prefer forearms are a-okay. Instead, we're just going to find a place in space where the shoulders can hang out right over the wrists, the toes can tuck, maintaining that knee under hip connection for a lift and a lower. And we'll give that just a few, warming up the abdominals on this lift by maintaining a strong, stable shoulder connection and pulling your belly button up to your spine. We'll go for one more. And then a moment to rest, a cat-cow, a child's pose, any good reset you might need in there. We're going to start to enhance it, changing the pelvis specifically first. Finding a lift on the next one, we're going to start to swing the knees to one side, kind of like a golfer's swing, and then over to the other. We'll give that just a couple to each side, making sure we end on the side we didn't start on, and resting back down. Take that reset, whatever calls to you, a moment off the wrists, whatever you need there. And our last one is all about mobilizing a little bit more around your SI joint and your sacrum. We're going to hover the knees one final time here, letting one knee start to lower down like it's reaching for the floor, and then switching over to the second side. We'll give them just a couple here. You should be warming up just a bit with these. And then resting the knees. Taking a release of the wrists, we're going to continue the use of our block, but here we'll transition to a seated position, letting your feet be where they're happy. My knees prefer a bend. Great opportunity to add in your ball. Resting your ball behind your low back so you can sink into it. Gives your abdominals a little additional support there. We'll take that block right between the inner thighs for the first round. Continuing with a little bit of motion here, just sinking a little deeper into a C curve and pulling up and out of it. We'll do just a couple. Trying to engage right into that rectus abdominis, deep low into the transverse, just for that little bit of support. And then taking a moment to come up, maybe stretch out, get a nice reset. Next round, I'm going to do without my ball. We're going to take the block in hand, starting again with just a little bit of pressure to that block. We're going to start to lower down, very similar to what we just did with the ball, but here without, it's all about the tuck of the tailbone. And on this next one, we're going to pause in that C curve, rotating to one side and up and over to the other. We'll give this just a couple. Finding good rotation to get the obliques nice and warm here as well. Moving right at that waistline. And when you're even, you get to come into whatever stretch feels best. Nice chance to reset. Our final round, a little harder still. With or without your ball for support, find your C curve one final time, holding there, little space between chin and chest. Find those arms reaching nice and high and lowering back down. Try to tap your knees. We'll go for just a couple here. We have 2 left. And on this final one, as your arms start to lower, you get to roll on up and take that stretch forward. Now we're going to transition it to lying down, keeping your block again with that fist distance, rested between your inner thighs and your knees. Take a moment to settle into your mat. See if you can feel back of your hips, back of your ribs, back of your head, making full contact. Reaching your arms long to your sides. Create a little bit of active reach out of your fingertips. Planting your heels nice and heavy. Start with just a slight tuck of your tail. Little glute engagement, little transverse engagement, and releasing right back down. Now here's a great place to add in pelvic floor as well by adding a little squeeze through that pelvic floor like a kegel. We'll give this just 2 more. Now with the low back nice and warmed up, we're going to take it at a slow, steady range and pace, continuing that long reach from the fingers, opening up through your collarbone and the front of your neck as you lift through your hips, rolling right back down along your spine, just as slowly, if not slower, than that lift. We'll give that just a couple here. Just maintaining a little bit of support from the block, making sure that your inner thighs are engaging to keep your hamstrings from cramping and taking too much of the work. Now on our next one, we're going to start to add in some good hip mobility. So we'll lift up nice and high. A great option for a tactile, bring your hands to your hip bones. Your elbows could even stay anchored as that little bit of a base of support. Now imagine that these hip bones are that sliding of a typewriter over to one side, right back through center and over to the other. Doesn't have to be a huge motion, an inch or so does really nicely here on the hips, moving a little bit along the spine, but engaging one glute and then the other. Finding your center to just roll right back down. A brief reset, maybe your knees rock, your block could come away, stretching legs up to the sky. We're going to go in for another variation. This time we'll only lift about halfway. Holding halfway, maybe again bringing hands to hips, letting a single hip lower and lift and switching. Very similar to our 4-point kneel. We're going to let one more to each. See if your range of motion changes, if you can get a little bit more engagement into your glute and your hamstring, and rolling right back down when you hit that even center. Last one's the best one. Your hips actually get to stay down. So letting your hips stay nice and relaxed to your mat for a moment. Think about one hip bone pressing heavily down as the other starts to just barely lift, lowering right back down to switch over. So one will find a little bit of air, the other is going to stay firmly planted. The best thing about these is that it's mobilizing right where your sacrum is. Should help reduce a little bit of that SI tightness and compression. And then when you're even, just taking a rest, taking your block into your hand, we're going to glide our block underneath a single foot. And this way you get to pick which side you start with. It will stagger you. So this slightly different level change. We're going to bridge one more round here with a little bit of pressure through each foot. You might notice your non-blocked hamstring works a little harder to help support that glute on the lift and on the lower. Now your brain doesn't fully trust that block as a supportive solid surface, so it is going to force your flat floor foot to work just a little bit harder. We're going to just do 2 more here, focused on maintaining that nice level pelvis. Hands can always readjust to hip bones if you're not quite sure what's happening, just to keep yourself honest. And then a moment here to stretch up the floor leg to the sky, a bit of a grab behind that hammy, a flex and a point to the foot. Those might help. Kick a little more blood into that muscle. We're going to scoot our block over, resting it underneath the second foot. Find your support from both sides, adding that reach from your fingertips to lift and lower. We'll give this just 3 more, trying to maintain that nice level hip joint, side to side. Continuing to mobilize along the spine. Our back body is so important, but we rarely think of it because it's behind us. Maybe checking in on those hips one more time before that final roll down. And a nice opportunity of a stretch on that floor leg, pointing and flexing. And we're going to continue with the block, but this time we're going to add in a nice abdominal set. So start with your block just rested on the fronts of your thighs. Your feet can just rest to the floor. We're going to add a little pressure through the hands, starting to increase the pressure as you crunch up, and then reducing it as you roll back down. If head, neck, and shoulders don't love this, there are some great alternatives that do not involve lifting your head, such as pausing with a little pressure on your block, lifting your legs, and letting your upper body rest while you apply pressure and decrease pressure. Now, if you like the head lift, you can always keep it, maybe even make your life a little harder, coming to your forearms. See if you can maintain pressure while you stretch a leg away, pulling it right back in and switching. And these should warm you up a little quicker. I got nice and shaky pretty much right away. We'll do one to each leg. And then a moment to rest, letting your block come with you. Your knees could rock in their side to side. We'll add one more round to it, just a little more challenge still, taking your block this time to a single thigh. Taking hands, or for more challenge, just that opposite forearm with a little pressure against your hand and that second knee into its tabletop. Now, while keeping your pressure, just your single free leg stretches away and pulls back in. If you need head support here, hand behind the head really resting heavy into the hand. On the next one, hold the leg. See if you could lift it high and lower it. Your range, your pace. We'll try for one more. And a moment to rest. Little reset in there. Final side. We'll come to that single block, maybe hands, maybe just that single crossed over forearm. Find your support and add your single leg stretch out and in. We'll go for just two here, maybe adding the support of your hand behind your head, holding the leg out straight and lifting and lowering for your final two of those. And you get to rest, taking the knees to a rested position, rocking your knees in their side to side. We'll do one gentle round of stretch to end here, letting your knees stay low. Option to add your ball instead, lifting your hips to place your block right underneath your tailbone. Now, if this isn't comfortable on your low back, feel free to find the ball, a pillow, or nothing instead. You can just let your knees open to their butterfly stretch, letting your arms open into a cactus. And take a moment here just to add in a little bit of gentle mobility. Maybe the arms start to straighten overhead, finding nice length and reach. Maybe your knees pull together and add a little bit of a side to side, creating a little more space along your rib cage. And when you're done there, you can lift your hips, rest your hips nice and heavy. Hopefully you feel a little more flat between the back of your hips, the back of your ribs, the back of your head. For a fancy exit, you can send those arms to the sky and roll your way up for a nice full forward stretch. And you are all done there,